The Pete Souza Show returns, and we got Anna Camden joining us right now. There she is, content creator. Almost, almost feel like she's a family member of mine. I was telling people before we went to break, I'm in the tank for you because one, we grew up in the same neighborhood, we went to the
Hmm.
same school, and we're both tall and very cool.
Yes, sir.
So,
Great description.
so that's it. But you went to. I was actually back home in Philly last week, and I drove by your beautiful campus at Shipley. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where the big time superstars went.
Yeah, Shipley's an awesome place. School is beautiful. I don't know if you knew this, but I took the train to school every day. So it was like
No
40
way. The
minutes
R
there.
five.
Yeah. No, I just took SEPTA. Was it the
Okay.
R5?
Yeah,
SEPTA,
yeah, the
whatever
R
that
five.
is.
I think. Yeah, yeah.
So
SEPTA. Yeah.
I would take it. I'm from Downingtown, which is about 40, 30 minutes depending on traffic from Shipley. So I would take a 40-minute train ride into Bryn Mawr and then 40 minutes back every single day. But it was so worth it.
I have a pretty good guess that you're probably one of the only students at Shipley that was taking the train there.
There was actually a couple of us. There was a couple of us that had gotten a scholarship to Shipley for sports, like myself, and the most efficient way to get there was the train.
You made the most of it too. I think you had 1,600 points in high school. Pretty good.
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you taking the time. There's so much going on right now. And, I follow you on social and I love, you put up a couple videos about the WNBA, some of the attention it's getting, some of the fireworks that we've been seeing recently. And they've been totally captivating. People can check that out at Anna Camden. I'm curious to get your opinion on the surging popularity of the league right now. I'm like last night, after the finals, I'm watching Golden State and the Fever, like, and
Yeah.
the environment is electric. And I know a lot of that is connected to Caitlin Clark, but like as a player, somebody who put your fingerprints on the game, and I believe you'd still be playing if you didn't get hurt. But what do you make of the popularity of the sport right now? Is this something you saw coming?
Oh, it is amazing. And while I would have always hoped for this, I didn't never thought that it would happen this quick. It was like so like linear. They always say growth isn't linear. This is pretty dang linear over the last 2 years. So I think I knew that the WNBA and women's basketball in general had this potential, but I think the way that it has just exponentially gotten so much popularity, so much attention, so much more viewership, so much more engagement with people has been incredible to see over the last couple of years.
As a former player, what is some of the growth that you really enjoy watching yourself? Something that surprised you?
I think my favorite thing ever is when I put on a game and they'll flash the whole stadium or they'll flash like the courtside people and just seeing the energy and atmosphere of those games. When I was younger and our AAU team would go to a WNBA game, it would be empty. It would be quiet. It would not have this like competitive atmosphere that the games have now. And if they show on TV a little girl with a poster or something, it just literally like it makes me so excited and so proud to be a women's basketball player and to be representing a new generation of like hoopers that are going to come up and this is the standard and they're going to grow up and be like, I want to be like her, more so than ever. And that's just so special to be a part of.
No, and I think you're totally right. Like when I turned on that game last night, I was like, "Holy crap!" Like it's like there is an electricity in that arena. Now, granted, it's an expansion team, so there's energy around that. They're playing the Fever, but I was like, I don't care what this is or where
Yeah.
it is. This is awesome. And some of the history that you have, knowing the game and then knowing some of the players, right?
Yeah.
Again, like you played 3 years, 4 years in the Big Ten,
Yeah,
transferred to
4 years.
Richmond. Yeah, you were playing before Caitlin Clark actually got there.
Yeah, so I had a year in the Big Ten before she got there, and then I
Yeah.
played 3 years versus her.
Yeah, you actually had one game, I think in February. You had 18 and she had 32. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. 18 and 7 boards. So you were right there, but you also had a chance to play against JC Sheldon, and you
Mhm.
knew the ins and outs of the league, the rhythms of it. Describe some of the tension or the rivalry between JC Sheldon and Caitlin Clark that may have been bubbling before we saw that fight on Tuesday night or tussle, whatever you want to call it.
100%. So, well, first of all, both Ohio State and Iowa during their careers were at the top of the league. Like those were competitive, important games for both of those teams to win, right? Because the Big Ten women's basketball top tier, like just so that we send 7 or 8 teams every single year to the tournament, so it's very competitive. Then you add into that JC and Caitlin are the faces of their teams during that point. So they're like the leaders, they're the stars. They have the biggest role on the team. And of course, there's going to be that competitive nature of who's going to win this matchup, who's going to win this battle. And there's the individual matchup and then there's the team matchup. And how can that not be competitive? I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that it's personal. I think it's just two competitive, really good basketball players fighting to be the best on the court in that moment. And when you're in the same league or conference as someone for so many years straight, you start to learn their game like the back of your hand. It starts to get more and more competitive, and you start to know their tactics. You know what to expect, and then it just keeps building. It's one of the best parts of conference basketball.
So watching the intensity, right, that we saw on Tuesday night, and then ultimately it culminates into something that we see everywhere, and some of the frustration that some fans have is like, oh, like they're not players are resentful of Caitlin Clark, and I think that look, two things can be true at once. You can appreciate the impact she's had on the game and still be a little resentful. I was saying here yesterday, like, I call a lot of games broadcasting, but I'm always a little resentful of like the guys who are calling maybe more or bigger games. It's just natural. I don't
Right.
let it like overtake me, and I always end up like, okay, you channel it, you kind of bring God in, and you say like, well, that's great. This person is maybe lighting the way for me, per se.
Mhm.
Like, don't get envious. But do you think that there is some of that resentment that maybe spills over onto the court?
Okay. I have a lot of thoughts about this actually. So, first of all, I think there's a difference between being resentful towards Caitlyn and being resentful towards her fans. And I think that gets lost in translation a lot. I think a lot of the frustration that comes from WNBA players, and obviously this is my speculation and my guessing, I'm not in the league myself, but it would be towards both the media and the fans and the way that people react to certain plays, the way that it gets blown up, and then these WNBA players are personally attacked, being sent death threats, being told to die, all of these things because they had a hard foul on Caitlin Clark or because, whatever it might be. And I'm not saying that some of those hard fouls might have been a little extra, might have looked a little personal. Like there's definitely instances of that, but I think that the resentment might come from the portrayal of things and the disproportionate way that it's all shown in the media. With that being said, there is also a nature of this that I think is a bit of a double standard with it being women. I think if these are happening in the NBA, it's, oh, that's competitive. Oh, they got to welcome the rookie to the league. But it's happening in the WNBA and it's like, this is catty, this is personal. They're going after her, they're bullying her. Like whatever happened to some good competitive nature when Kobe got to the NBA, there was a lot of welcoming moments for him, right? Like Michael Jordan wasn't just going to let him waltz in and be the new GOAT. So yes, there are moments where I'm like, that was a little too much or that looked a little personal, but that happens in every single league. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts, but I also will say this. Um, Having played against Caitlin, she is such a smart player and she's smart in her IQ of the game, but she's also smart in the way that she competes. She's very sly in some of the comments she might make or her little competitive things. I think she does a very good job of knowing how to get under people's skin without everyone else in the arena knowing. And if I had to guess, that would be something that she's still doing right now, which is not a bad thing. I mean, that's a good competitor. You know how to work the game to your advantage. So I think that's something that I also would expect to be happening that builds up little bits of tension.
No, that's some great insight there, and I love the point you make about, I mean, all of it, but the one that I wanted to follow up on was like, you know, the players are that could be upset, or maybe more upset at like things outside of Caitlin Clark, right? Maybe her orbit, like the media, the fans. Do you think that she ever like? Does she have conversations? You think with other players, like, hey, like this is crazy, like like players on opposing teams, like almost like. I'm sorry for this. Like some of these fans are out of their mind. Like, is there a communication there where she still keeps a relationship, like and a normal one with other players in the league?
Honestly, I think about this all the time and I have no idea because
Yeah.
I think there would be like if I was in her position, I think I would be like, oh my gosh, like I feel the need to like clear the air here,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
But also, she's just doing her job and she's incredibly gifted and she's the most entertaining player in the WNBA right now. So she doesn't need to apologize for that. She's not responsible for what the media does because of how good she is, right? So I definitely wonder about that, but I don't have the answer for it.
A couple more questions for you. This is great stuff. When you look at the WNBA, a lot of a writer who I've grew up reading Christine Brennan, great writer, and she was, somebody like her, somebody who has really cultivated or been proactive about promoting women's sports forever since I was a real little kid. So she's kind of a voice I listen to. She tweets, during that game after that scuffle, they need to do a better job, these officials, whether it's
Mm.
protecting Caitlin Clark or their superstars. What do you make of that? Like, do the officials, does the league have a role in cleaning some of this up?
Okay, so the officiating is not something that I've honestly paid too much attention to as of late until that game, and specifically Indiana's head coach Stephanie White. Her comments kind of surprised me because she kind of called out like our officiating needs to get better as the league grows. So I will say this: there can't be favoritism. Like I get a little come on when it's protect Caitlin Clark because all the players need to be protected. Like an official's job is not to only protect the superstars. Now, should Marina Mabrey's shoved to the body probably been upgraded during the game? Yes, absolutely. I was shocked that it wasn't. But there again, there can't be like we're just always got to protect this one player, and I don't think that anyone's asking for that. I don't think Caitlin's asking for that. But I just there can't be favoritism, and I think that if we're only calling out the officiating on one player, then that seems to be a little lopsided, especially because I think there are calls that go her way, and there are definitely calls that don't go her way as well. So those are my thoughts. I definitely am going to be paying more attention to the officiating moving forward, though.
How much fun are you having watching these games this year? Like really, like are you watching? I know you're busy, you got all kinds of stuff, but are you watching like a couple games a week, like or more than you normally would, especially with what you do now? I mean, you're basically a hoops analyst, as your career
Yeah,
starts to take off. But are you watching a lot of games?
yes, for sure. And I think it's almost more fun now because my like class is all in the league. And so like I know these girls, I played these girls, I know they're scouts. And so I'm like, has she gotten her left hand better? You know what I mean? Like, and that's very fun and entertaining for me to watch. And also not like having an upcoming season myself has freed me up a little bit to have some time on my hands to just enjoy the game a little bit more and not be spending as much time perfecting my game and just learning the game, if that makes sense.
I bet it's nice for you to kind of are you able to sit back and take it easy on yourself and now be like, okay, my work in this corner of my life is done, right? As far as being a player, you'll still contribute to the game, but are you able to like shift gears as a star athlete and just finally relax and take it in?
I think I'm shifting gears, but it's not towards relaxment. It's more towards, all right, let's analyze this game. Let me listen to what's the play-by-play saying. What's the sideline reporter's questions? Like if you're watching a game with me and we come back from the commercial and of the finals and Lisa Salters is asking a question, I'm like, shh, everyone listen. I need to hear what she says. I need to hear how she phrased it. Like I'm more so switching into that like reporter gear, if that makes sense. But definitely
Yeah.
shifting gears.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so one of the things I had to ask you was part of that incident the other night was like Sophie Cunningham like
Mhm.
shows up. I knew who she was because I know women's hoops. I've known her since Missouri, but like a lot of people are like, whoa, like now she's like, in the middle, right, with the spotlight on her. Um, was she because you mentioned some of the physicality with Caitlin Clark. Oh, you mentioned here's what you mentioned, Kobe, right? When he came into the
Mm,
league, like MJ wasn't going to take it easy on him. I go back further, like MJ came into the league and teams were beating the crap out of him. Like the
yeah.
Pistons and the Knicks, like they made it their job. So really the NBA like came over and created like what they called the Jordan rules. You couldn't hand check him anymore. But also the Bulls, they got Charles Oakley, who was like this big enforcer, almost like Michael Jordan's like bodyguard or protector. Now, Sophie Cunningham coming to the Fever, is she, I mean, obviously she's a good player, but her being brought on to that organization, is that part of like, hey, let's build around Caitlin Clark. Let's get some players who come to our team that are invested in her and
Mhm.
taking care of her?
100%. I think the Fever looked at their roster last year, and there was a lot of criticism of why does no one have Caitlin's back? She's being shoved to the ground. Why is no one stepping up in this moment? So I think the Fever would have 100% looked at the roster and said, okay, we got to get some big people out here who are big dogs that aren't afraid to bark a little bit, and that's exactly what Sophie is. She's a great player, like you said, but I mean, she's played for a long time in Phoenix with Diana Taurasi, who has one of the biggest barks in college basketball or sorry, professional basketball. So 100%, I think that's why part of the reason, if not the reason, that she was brought in, and she's backing it up. I mean, there's been several instances already where she gets tossed to the ground, she's right back up. And it's so entertaining sometimes because she could be so much smaller than whoever she's getting up in their face, but she does not care. And it's that competitive nature is definitely admirable. But I will say, I didn't like the difference in reception of her hard foul versus JC Sheldon. Everyone was praising her for that, which I love that she had Caitlin's back, but it was like, this is what JC deserved. Whereas JC had, hit Caitlin in the eye, whether that was intentional or not. It looks like a basketball play to me. The chest bump after was not a basketball play, but they were received so differently. And one was being praised and the other was being called a dirty player. And I was like, what in the world? Like you got to have a little bit of balance here. So she was definitely brought in for that job, but I had to throw that in there because that was something that bothered me a little bit.
I like that too, because coming from you, like you mentioned, somebody who knows Caitlin Clark's game a little bit, knows how she can maybe get under the skin of an opponent. Like we see that isolated incident, it's like, oh my gosh, why would she face rake her? But actually, it's in the heat of the moment, and there's probably a lot that went on before that that's
Mm-hmm.
elevated the intensity.
Exactly. I mean, there was a clip that there in the start of the second quarter, there was a moment between JC and Caitlin, and they're kind of talking a little bit, and Caitlin goes, "I can do whatever the bleep I want," and kind of shoves her, and that's like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's competitive. That's what you want to see if you're a basketball fan.
Yeah.
But people need to understand that tension started there, and then it built the entire game. Like JC's scrappy defense wasn't just from that. I mean, she always plays scrappy defense, but like there was tension building. And honestly, that's great for women's basketball. I think it's
Yes.
amazing. It makes it entertaining. I think the NBA is lacking a lot of that these days, if I'm being honest. So you can't complain about it, but there definitely is a difference in the way that people portray certain instances.
Anna Camden, you brought it. Thank you so much. You can find her, everybody, at Anna Camden. Anything else you want to say or promote? Anything?
No, I appreciate you having me on. It's very fun. And everyone, if you're not already, tune into women's sports. If you're not, you're missing out.
Let's go. All right, Anna Camden, thanks so much. I'll be in touch. Appreciate